Block News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Our top story: after disagreement, debate, and a 5-year review, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service recommends that grizzly bears in the lower 48 states retain their threatened species status. A news release states progress has been made toward the bears' recovery, and the bears are now considered biologically recovered. However, federal wildlife managers say considerable challenges remain. Those include limited habitat connectivity, human-caused mortality, and uncertainty around future conservation efforts in some ecosystems. Governor GIANFORTE spoke out against that decision today.
I would have liked to have seen a different decision. These grizzly bears, we've seen predation increase on an annual basis, and it's unfortunate. Montana is perfectly able to manage this population if we had the control to do it. Until the delisting occurs, that's not possible.
Montana's Republican Senator Steve Daines and Congressman Matt Rosendale also released statements this afternoon disagreeing with that decision. Well, today, marijuana business owners laid out concerns they have with a proposed bill that would reshape Montana's marijuana laws before legal recreational sales even begin. But many say they're willing to reconsider if there are changes. The House Business and Labor Committee held a lengthy hearing today on House Bill 701. That bill, sponsored by Republican Representative Mike Hopkins of Missoula, is one of the major marijuana reform bills under consideration. That bill would require local governments to opt in to allow recreational marijuana businesses before one could open. It would also redirect tax revenue to the Heart Fund, Governor GIANFORTE's proposed account for substance abuse and mental health treatment. Many of those testifying say some of the bill's provisions would harm small marijuana businesses, and they're opposed to the opt-in requirement.
We carried this industry and founded it and helped develop the regulations and worked with the inspectors to develop these standards. Don't just invalidate all our hard work and throw us locals to the side and let big money come in.
Whereas initiative folks are out there to pass an initiative, the 150 people here in this building are here to represent the entirety of the state of Montana. And that includes folks that are in favor, not in favor, voted for it, didn't vote for it.
The committee held hearings on 2 other marijuana reform bills yesterday. They're expected to take action on those bills next week. Montana's COVID-19 vaccine shipments are on the rise as the state gears up to open eligibility for everyone 16 and older. That news announced this afternoon by the governor, saying the state will receive more than 40,000 first doses next week to go along with 25,000 second doses. The governor says their federal allocation is up by about 15,000 doses from last week. State leaders say most providers are ready to meet the new eligibility demand, though they said there still won't be enough supply for everyone to get the vaccine immediately. GIANFORTE also directed people to resources where they can learn more about the vaccines and find out how they can get vaccinated in their community. That link can be found on our website, ktvq.com. The governor will receive his own first vaccine dose tomorrow. As for the numbers across the state, Montana reports 211 new COVID-19 cases today, pushing the state's total case count to nearly 105,000. The death toll remains at 1,443 tonight, while well over 102,000 people have now recovered from the virus. One of Billings' most beloved summer events is back on this summer. The Strawberry Festival was canceled last year amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Although the streets are usually packed with people, this year you'll notice more spacing between vendors. Also, hand washing stations will be set up throughout the festival area, with most up-to-date CDC recommendations being posted. That event is slated for July 10th.
The Strawberry Festival has been a community favorite for 30 years. This is its 30th year, and so obviously that weighs heavy in when you're deciding on what events you really want to bring back and put a lot of effort into. And so after a whole year of no events, we of course want to see people downtown and enjoying the community.
Well, it's exciting that the Strawberry Festival is coming back. One of the biggest attractions, the 60-foot-long strawberry shortcake, will not be back this year. Well, for families in our Canadian border communities, it's been a year of separation, tears, and sacrifice. But there's still hope Washington and Ottawa can find a solution as pandemic restrictions drag on. MTN's Dennis Bragg has more.
The port of Roosevelt is eerily quiet now. Outside of the occasional semi or wandering sheep, no one is crossing the border. And that's been hard on families, people like Charlie.
In normal times, Charlie would have a short drive if he wanted to visit the rest of his family. He lives not far from that ridge you can see in the distance. Instead, now it's a trip of thousands of miles if he wants to be reunited with his son.
It's pretty crazy because before I could just drive, like I live 7 minutes up the road from here. Now I gotta drive 4 hours to Calgary, get on a plane, fly from Calgary to Denver, then Denver down to Kalispell, and then get Brandy drive up to come pick me up in order to just come see my family.
Charlie asked me to protect his identity because he doesn't want to make it even more difficult to cross the border. When he goes home after seeing Colt and his stepdaughter, he's found it's easier to walk than spend hundreds to fly back.
I get Brandy drop me off, I go across the border, and then I got quarantined for 14 days, and then they call me and check up on me and even send the police to come make sure that I'm following the guidelines for them.
For Brandy Carvey and a dozen others, today was a chance to share frustration and some tears as their Canadian relatives gathered north of the line, a division of politics and pandemic, but not love.
There's Auntie Shelley.
Wave it, Auntie Shelley.
Hi, Auntie Shelley
and Papa.
The pain is deep. Shannon Sellers had only reunited with her Canadian high school sweetheart, who she met at the Kootenai Rodeo.
We kind of did our own separate things, and he got married and had kiddos. I ended up having a kiddo, and we actually got back in contact again in 2019. It was like we never lost touch.
They got engaged 3 months before COVID shut things down.
It's hard. It is definitely extremely hard, especially when you found your person after so many years, and then that person just kind of got ripped away.
Now the couple tries to explain what happened, a tough assignment, especially to a 6-year-old.
When she's with her dad, she has to take his phone to bed, and I have to stay on the phone with her until she falls asleep because she just cries. I love you too!
For sister-in-laws Tammy and Sandy BOZARTH, it's the first time they've seen family and a daughter married to a BC man.
It's heartbreaking. It is very heartbreaking. You know, you're so close to him and you can't get over there.
So that sign's pretty true today, huh?
It is, yep, absolutely. We have cousins too in Fernie that we haven't been able to see. So it's hard. It's hard for everybody.
It's the Tobacco Valley, no matter which side of this imaginary line you're on. And like my grandparents live right there. They're 200 yards from here. And we haven't seen them in over a year now. My aunt lives there. Haven't seen her in over a year now.
We're just hoping for essential travel, that they deem family essential, that grandparents don't have to fly halfway around, the states to get here, and maybe that Canada will lessen quarantine a little bit just so that the families can be together, because as of right now, there's no way. I own a business, so I can't travel for the 14 days they need up there. And his dad works, so he can only come down every 5 to 6 weeks for a visit, and it's not a long one,
It's brutal because I basically got to choose what side of family I want, either my family in Canada or family down here, and then it's my livelihood's at stake.
People go to work up there. People come to work down here. And this imaginary line has completely divided it. For what reason, I don't know.
What's it like to look across there and see your loved ones?
It's hard watching my kids cry. Very hard.
My jacket.
On the Montana-BC border, Dennis Bragg, MTN News.
And today the picture isn't looking much better north of the border. Canadian health leaders are alarmed over another spike in COVID cases over the past 2 weeks, and British Columbia is returning to even tighter restrictions. All right, turning to Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh. And Ed, residents in the western U.S. may wonder if the calendar has flipped to August instead of April with some of the temperatures they've been seeing.
That's for sure, especially as we get into the next few days. Let's take a look across the country, especially here once we get into the Rocky Mountain West and the interior states, as temperatures tomorrow look like they'll be anywhere from the 90s down through Arizona, 60s to even low 70s. Billings could easily make the low 70s. And then the temperatures continue to climb each afternoon. Watch as we take it through time. Temperatures could be close to 100 degrees around Phoenix by Saturday and Sunday. In the Billings area up into the mid 70s. In fact, Billings will be close to record high temperatures pretty much every afternoon right on through Easter Sunday. And the overnight temperatures will be very warm as well, and dry conditions that do have some effect on the forecast. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Ed. State leaders gathered in Helena today to celebrate the future U.S. Navy submarine that bears the state's name. Governor GIANFORTE and legislative leaders and other officials rang the bell that will eventually be presented to the crew of the USS Montana, an advanced nuclear submarine currently under construction in Virginia. They also heard an update from the ship's commanding officer, Captain Michael Delaney. That submarine will be 377 feet long. It already has a crew of 135 crew members, including 5 from Montana. It's set to be commissioned into the Navy early next year.
Montanans are patriots. We're courageous. We have values that these crew members treasure and that they will take in their assignments around the world.
In recognition of the state motto, Oro y Plata, the bell includes gold and silver from Butte and Phillipsburg. Well, a Molt, Montana teacher is earning high marks in her last year before retirement. Deborah Flynn has been the only teacher at the Molt K-8 school for about 20 years. As Q2's Mitch Legge reports, Flynn certainly has left her mark on the community.
In the small farming community of Molt, a short drive west from Billings, there's been a teacher who's been at this one-room schoolhouse for her entire 34-year career. Her name is Deb Flynn, and this year she was honored with Montana Rural Teacher of the Year.
Well, I was really surprised because, I just think of myself as a teacher, and I'm here because kids need an education, and some of them need this small environment. Some of them need the one-on-one.
She's taught classes as small as 3 students and as large as 13 across all grade levels, kindergarten through 8th. There's no bus driver or lunch lady at the Molt school, just a classroom, library, and common area. In a school like this, it's tough for a student to remain anonymous.
Because if you get a kid that is a reluctant learner, they can't fall through the cracks here because I'm on their case, so to speak,
This year, Flynn has a classroom aide to help teach a wide range of grades. But for most of the last 20 years, she's been the only one here educating Molt area students.
There's no downtime. I had someone come in to visit one time and said, "Where's your lounge?" And I went, "What's a lounge?" A teacher's lounge doesn't exist here. My break is if the aide takes them out to recess, and then I grade like crazy.
With 34 years of teaching at the same place, there's no doubt that Flynn has left her mark.
Right now I've got 2 students that's parent went to school here, and her brothers went to school here. And I've had this 8th grader now 9 years. So that's kind of a big deal for me. I think that he likes it here.
At the end of the school year, Flynn will hang up her teaching career and retire. She said she'll probably settle down in Billings to be closer to her mother, and maybe take a summer road trip to visit some old colleagues in the Phoenix area. Reporting in Molt, Mitch Legge, MTN News.
Thanks, Mitch. And as part of the reward, Flynn will receive a $500 endowment and an all-expense-paid trip to the Montana Association of County School Superintendents Spring Conference. Still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2. It may come as a surprise, but agriculture is one of the most dangerous industries. In tonight's Montana Ag Report, we look at efforts to keep grain handlers safe. And in sports, we told you last night that MSUB Athletic Director Krista Montague is stepping aside after nearly a decade in charge. Tonight we hear from her as she reflects on her tenure.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN